Today, I want to speak about some of the unconscious biases that can prevent couples from building successful, sustainable business enterprises. My name is Joe-Ezigbo. I'm a transformational business leader and the double impact coach. I help entrepreneurial couples who are in business together to build sustainable businesses God's way. You know what an unconscious bias is, right? It's kind of a belief or a set of assumptions that you may have about someone, about a situation or circumstance, and it sort of drives the way that you in turn react or respond to those. And even among couples that work together, no matter how many years they've been married, actually there tend to be sets of unconscious biases that play out in the way that they interact with each other, both at home as well as in the business. And I want to talk about a few of them today. The first I want to talk about is gender bias. Yes, you heard me, a gender bias between couples who are married and work together on a day-to-day basis. Now, let me ask you some questions. For instance, and primarily, what is your core belief about the opposite sex? Have you ever stepped back to ask yourself, what do I really believe if you're a woman about men? And if you're a man, what do I really believe about women? And how might your core beliefs and philosophies about the opposite sex be affecting your work relationship with your spouse, as well as your marriage perhaps? What do I mean? Let me give an example. So if you're a man, for instance, who fundamentally at his core believes that the place of a woman is at home looking after her children and having food ready for the family, you know it's going to affect the way that you relate with your spouse professionally. You'll find yourself inadvertently resenting some of the heights that she has the potential to progress to, some of the things that she achieves, and if you're not careful, blocking opportunities for her to rise and do greater things. And we see this happen many a time, where some men would rather keep the family down as long as their wives don't rise in their minds above them, rather than looking at it as the fact that the whole family is rising. If you're a woman, on the other hand, who fundamentally believes that all men they're bad, they're womanizers, we have all these funny constructs that we hear all the time about men in society, they're unfeeling, they're uncaring. That's actually also going to affect how you interact with your spouse, not just in your marriage, but in the workplace. Sometimes couples who are in business together have lost opportunities because there is jealousy that is involved, many times totally unfounded. But these things are coming from some deep-seated unconscious biases that we carry that we must be mindful about and that we must work together to get over so that they don't impact on the potentials of our business as well as constraining our family relationships at home. So the next bias I want to speak about is the conformity bias. And this is quite prevalent between couples that work together, where you feel that it's important for you to agree with your spouse on every issue. Can I promise you that both of you bring very different things to the table, different skills, different competencies, different perspectives, different ways of analyzing, internalizing, and then making decisions about various issues. And insofar as either of you thinks that because this is my husband or this is my wife that I work with, I must conform to their own path, I must agree with everything that they put out, the business is going to suffer for it. One of the best ways that you work together is that both of you bring your individual strengths to the table, your individual way of looking at issues to the table, rub minds together and with your teams, and then fashion out the best decisions in the interest of the business. And it's the same thing exactly in your marriage. So try to be aware of the conformity bias. When you go outside for meetings, ask yourself, am I agreeing? Even internally in your business, ask yourself, am I agreeing simply because this is my spouse and perhaps I want to keep the peace, or am I agreeing because this is the best thing for our business at this point in time? Very closely related to the conformity bias is the confirmation bias. And this is where, in essence, you find yourself literally cherry-picking information just to confirm what it is that your spouse is putting out. I mean, you can imagine yourself being in meetings and literally not hearing what anyone else is saying because you just want resonance with your spouse. What this means is that you're not actively listening. What this means is that you're going to miss critical nuggets of information and ideas that are being shared at the table because you want that level of alignment with your spouse. There is absolutely nothing wrong with a couple that work together disagreeing with each other, especially when they master the art of disagreeing in a constructive and in a progressive manner. So please be careful of confirmation bias. Please be careful that every time you're out there, you're not only hearing the voice of your spouse, but you're literally paying attention to all the other intellectual arguments that are on the table before you in any meeting, in any engagement, insofar as it affects your business and perhaps your marriage as well. The last bias I want to talk about today is the overconfidence bias. You know, interestingly, many times couples are in some kind of unspoken competition with each other, especially when they work together. And I do preach that it is not in the interest of the business or the family for you to constantly be trying to one-up each other. Perhaps you're operating in your area of expertise at any one point in time. When you are, beware the overconfidence bias, where you literally begin to shoot down the ideas of your spouse, or you begin to think that you alone are the bastion of all the best ideas at that point in time because that's your area of strength. Beware of that, because sometimes even the people who are totally outside of the specific fields where we are experts can give us the very best of ideas. And history is replete of great creations, great inventions that have happened because someone totally unrelated in that field, brought up an idea. I'm sure you know the story of the janitor who was the one that suggested to some big hotel magnates that they could put an elevator on the outside of the building because they had no space to put an additional elevator inside, and they had maxed out their capacity and they didn't know what to do. It was a janitor that said, why not put it on the outside? This is decades later, and all of us enjoy riding elevators that are totally outside of the building and giving us great views. So beware the overconfidence bias. You may be shooting down the best ideas that will be coming from your spouse at any one point in time. So these are just a couple of biases I thought I would share with you today for couples who are in business together, and I'm sure there are many more. Which ones have I missed out? If you know some, perhaps you want to drop me a comment and let me see so that we can all learn, grow, and share together. I look forward to seeing your feedback. Take care.